Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Greater Somerville. I'm Cayenne Anderson. Tonight's topic, development in Union Square. In preparation for the arrival of the new Green Line station in 2017, the Somerville Redevelopment Authority is in search of a master developer to oversee the revitalization of 7 large land parcels located in the heart of Union Square. With many local residents and business owners concerned about how this long-term development will impact the culture and vibrancy of the gritty square we all know and love, the importance of this process becomes quite clear. Tonight, we will talk with Gerding Edlen, one of the 4 remaining teams vying for this master developer role, to find out their long-term visions for Union Square should they be selected in May. So please join me in welcoming Matt Edlen, Jill Sherman, and Tim Love to the show. Welcome to Greater Somerville.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So we have a lot to go over tonight, a lot of information. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get right started here. I'm going to just ask that you kind of go through and introduce yourselves and what your role is on the team, and then we can go into a little bit of a brief history as to how you guys came to Somerville.
Perfect. I'm Matt Edlen. I am our Director of East Coast and Midwest Acquisitions. So I spent a ton of time here in Massachusetts. We've got a number of projects in the Boston metro area, and this has been an opportunity that came to us a few months ago, and have been really diving into Somerville and Union Square and what this means to us. So,
well, welcome to Somerville.
Welcome
to Union Square.
Thank you very much.
I'm Jill Sherman. I'm a Vice President of Development and our Director of Public-Private Partnerships. And on this project, I would be the project director, so I would be the primary contact person for Gerding Edlen and involved in the project from the very beginning through completion.
Okay.
And I'm Tim Love. I'm an architect and urban designer, and I, with the architecture firm Ad Inc., will be helping to orchestrate the kind of physical vision of the development project, the master planning process. And we're going to talk a little bit tonight about some of our early ideas for that.
Okay. Well, so what we're going to go through, the images of just a little bit about your firm so we can find out you are from Portland. And I just want to give a little bit of a background so the people at home can understand a little bit more about your firm.
Great. Well, I'm gonna take that one on.
Yeah.
So as you said, we're headquartered in Portland. We're an 18-year-old company that's done $5 billion of development at this point, and that's been primarily mixed-use, urban redevelopment, transit-oriented redevelopment. We've done over 7,000 residential units, over 4 million square feet of commercial space, and over 400,000 square feet of retail space. So we do have a fairly wide and deep portfolio that we've been working on. We are working across the country today. So we are on the West Coast in Seattle, LA, San Francisco, and of course Portland. And then we are now also in Boston metropolitan area as well as Chicago. So we are now going to a more national focus for the company. And we are very focused on neighborhoods and communities and looking in the cities that we work in for opportunities where there is a community there and there's also culture and a way that we can tap into that as we look at what we might do in terms of development in that location.
And now, do we have some slides? Did you want to go through? We will just be saying next so that they can advance the slides.
Yes.
Technology here.
Yes, so I'm going to say next.
Okay, next slide.
We've got some pictures here of some of the projects, things that we've actually completed in some of the markets that we're working in across the country. And what we're trying to do in sharing these images with you is give you a sense of our approach to development and then how those translate into real projects on the ground.
Okay, can we get the next slide, please? Thank you.
So we approach development with what we call our principles of place. There's 10 principles. We actually spent most of our time at our presentations in front of the SRA and the CAC really speaking about them, and we don't have time to go into detail. But they are things like creating community, creating inviting spaces, preserving historic symbols that matter, incorporating art into buildings. And one of the things you can see, I hope, in these photos is the care that we've taken with streetscapes and public spaces, and those spaces that aren't quite public and aren't quite private, but are the spaces where people really have the opportunity to interact with the buildings and the development that is created.
I think the other thing that our team brings is a real attention to the first 30 feet of buildings and also the streetscape at the same time, that we think about that as a single design problem.
Yeah, it's critical. Yeah.
Next slide. And I think also something that we've been very successful at in our projects is incorporating, I guess, multiple elements of these principles of place. So for example, this is a building that was a historic armory.
Wow,
So, and it was redeveloped into a home for Portland Center Stage. So it actually created a home for a really important cultural institution in the city of Portland, and the lobby space was designed so that it could actually serve as a community space for all kinds of events, for nonprofits, as well as people who just rent the space for holiday parties, etc. Next slide. And by way of introducing myself a little more, I thought it might be helpful for to talk about a couple of the projects that I'm working on right now in Portland that are projects that are really important to me, that I'm proud of, and it'll give you a sense of sort of what some of my priorities are and my focus in development. So this was a historic post office built in the early 1900s, and it's on the National Register of Historic Places, and we are currently renovating it to be a home for the Pacific Northwest College of Art. So it will have a variety of studio spaces, classroom spaces, as well as a place for galleries for shows, as well as multimedia presentations that can be used by the community.
Okay.
Next slide. This is a project I'm doing with a local nonprofit that it's under construction now, so that's a rendering, obviously. And it will have treatment for women and their kids, as well as permanently affordable housing. So I've been working on this project for about 5 years, and we've finally been successful in putting together the multitude of different sources of financing, including various tax credits, funding from the city, a capital campaign, in order to make a high community impact project like this one feasible.
Wonderful.
I'm now going to turn it over to my colleague, Matt Edlen, to talk a little bit about specifically the work that he's been really focused on here in the Boston area.
So next, please. So we, about maybe 4 years ago, and by virtue of kind of taking a more of a national approach, we landed in Boston and started, in Boston in particular, we were kind of looking at markets outside of our core markets, East Coast markets, that kind of really fit kind of our MO. And one of the things we've been talking about, this idea of sustainability being a big thing. Community being a kind of a central focus, and really community in these very kind of authentic neighborhoods. We landed in Boston, and it in some ways reminded us a little bit of home to some degree. The idea of these interstitched neighborhoods and these very kind of unique cultural elements to each specific neighborhood within the city, it just kind of spoke to us. And so we really kind of identified with that market and really kind of felt like this is something worth investing in. This is something to really kind of dig our teeth into. And so for the past, about 4 years, we've been here. I think I'm here almost every other week.
You're an East Coaster?
Keeping the airlines in business.
Starting to drive fast and aggressive? No. Okay.
Shh, don't tell the people
Don't say
back at
that on
home.
the air? Okay.
No, we spend a ton of time here really investing time in the neighborhoods and time with these communities. This is a really good example. This is a project we did in Fort Point called Factory 63. And it's a unique neighborhood. And there's a lot of, and I don't want to go into all the kind of the intricacies of the Innovation District and Fort Point and these neighborhoods that are kind of stitching together new ideologies in this kind of this very culturally driven past. But this building has, one of the things we've loved about this project is this kind of idea of what does community inside and community on the outside, how do we weave the two of those together? And this is a really cool
Great
space.
shot.
Yeah, this is a creative mornings conversation. So the first Friday of every month, Design Museum Boston, who's a local group in Boston who we do a lot of work with, hosts these creative conversations. And I bet you maybe a quarter of those are residents. Everyone else is people from the neighborhood, and this space is used in a very communal public function. So these neighborhoods we've really kind of glommed onto, and about maybe 6 to 8 months ago, we got a phone call from Ed O'Donnell, with the city's economic development commissioner, he called us up and he said, you know, I've seen this stuff that you guys are doing out here, and it's pretty cool. And I think it would be interesting to see, just to kind of expose you to Somerville. Come up and see this. And so over the last several months, we worked to assemble a team of people, a number of which are from Somerville in particular. And that was a conscious effort to really get people who are not just abundantly qualified, but also just they're, personally invested in the neighborhood. People like Tim, people like John Lannon, people like Rory over at Oat, our creative guys. I mean, we've got people who are thinking about this not only as professionals, but also as people from the community. It was really important for us to do that. And Tim and his team, especially on the urban design side, have been really critical in kind of thinking about their personal experiences in the neighborhood and how that ultimately identifies with kind of this next chapter or this new evolution of Union Square.
Yeah, maybe we can go to the next slide.
Yeah, that'd be great. Oh yeah, we had a couple more Design Museum Boston guys. This is the mayor of Boston touring some of our spaces as an art installation we did there. Next.
Yeah, and I think, next slide, please.
Next slide, please.
Yes, our team hanging
there you
out.
It's a great picture.
Next slide. Yeah, one of the things that that we were asked to do was to take Matt's impressions and certainly the lived-in experience of a lot of our team members and begin to analyze the way that urban planners do some of the facts in different ways to verify the anecdotes with, some understanding actually of what makes Union Square work so well. And one of the things that's amazing about Union Square, this is a map that we made, is that so many different things are happening at the same time. The variety is incredible between maker spaces, restaurants, bars, retail. The choices are unbelievable. And I think one of the unique things about this opportunity is that every developer wishes when they made a project this would happen, but it's already here. And so how do you reconceive urban development to actually capitalize on all these assets that are in a way a kind of gift to and the clue to what to do next?
And what this map really identifies with is not just kind of those cultural institutions that make Union Square, have kind of made this place so unique, but really it's the stories that are born from those. It's those experiences that you have, those interactions that you have, that I think we've tried to identify those as just they're very personal.
The radiators, I see that on there.
The
That's
radiators,
definitely a key
That's right.
for anyone who's in the Union Square area.
We've been talking about how to incorporate them in the new
Yeah,
project.
hey,
It's
they are
the
definitely.
feral cat lot.
Yeah, oh, there you go.
There you go. See.
Wow, you've got a lot of that. No, this is a really interesting little map. Okay.
Yeah, I suppose we should, as the process moves ahead, have people somehow add to it, almost
to
like a
it.
community
Absolutely.
board, the storyboard.
Yeah,
or
a
something.
whiteboard.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Maybe we can get a
this was
whiteboard.
John Lannon's brainchild, and it was
Yeah.
this is his experiences. This is his kind of human experience of Union Square, and we all have different,
Right,
I think,
different stories to
stories
tell.
to tell within that.
Right. Next slide, please. The other piece of this, too, is that because Union Square is already successful, it's already filled with all this life, and it's also, by the way, it's a very cool space physically, we need to approach this as designers almost more like filmmakers or cinematographers than the typical top-down architect's vision for the square. And so these are some early renderings that we've done to test and to explain this approach, which is that we need to start on all of the streets that lead into Union Square and actually walk to the sites that are in question. And by looking very carefully at what's there, imagine what can complement that.
Yeah, if I'm correct, sorry for interrupting, but on the left, you've got the SCAT building. It's on
right.
the far left, right? No, I'm just trying to, orient
Right.
people.
This is coming up
viewers at home.
Prospect
Yep.
and
Wonderful.
arriving in the square.
Wow.
And we also hope in the future that everybody's got very cool coats too, like the people
Yeah, I was going
that
to
you
say.
see in the
I
in the
kind of like
rendering.
some of those patterns. Very
Next
nice.
slide, please. We have some close-ups too. And I think this also reinforces the point that I made when Jill was speaking, that that the streetscape, the people, and the first 30 feet are really what matters. Getting
Yeah.
the scale right, getting the variety right, getting the architecture right in terms of even the scale of the pieces that make up this environment. Next slide, we have another close-up, I think.
Next. Oh, there we go.
And so these are the kinds of tools that we'll use as we begin to explore what the right thing is to do here.
And we haven't designed anything yet, just to be clear. These are really ideas about form and shape and interacting with what's already in the square
The
rather
first
than
30
trying
feet.
to,
Yeah.
right, rather than
Yeah.
designing a building. So anyone out there who doesn't like orange, you know,
Right.
should
Well,
be like,
they
"Oh
will
my
not be, I can
Red
commit
building.
now, they
Yeah.
probably won't be orange
Right.
buildings.
So just
You've
to
got a
be
little
just
fluff
to be
there?
clear about
Little
that.
fluff,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, next slide. And then and the other piece of this too is to using maps now to understand in terms of walk distances, what's called walk shed in the urban planning parlance,
Yeah.
how far away those key things are. This is, for example, a map of the kind of organic maker movement that's been emerging in Union Square organically and not really as a planned phenomenon. And so those tend to be the healthiest urban environments, things that happen organically and through word of mouth. And it's not the right strategy to have a development team come in and impose a lifestyle vision, a kind of brand from above, right? And so we want to leverage some of these things that are already happening, from Brooklyn Boulders and Artisan Asylum, all the way across the square. And even next slides, if you even look, and this is a little bit wonky maybe, even at some of the analysis that we've done of the demographics of people that live around Union Square, it's also fascinating. It's a kind of a mosaic, whatever of the categories we look at. For example, this is education level. You'll see that there are people of all different education levels that come into the square, that use the square. We want to maintain that as part of the vitality of the square. Next slide. Median household income. It's a kind of, again, it's kind of a crazy quilt. And this captures, in a way, also, I think, the spirit of the square as well. And then the next one of the maps that we made is this is a map of the percentage of people that are under 35. And this is the most fascinating map of all.
Wow, yeah, I was gonna say.
That where the really young pockets are is kind of all over the place. And I think our goal is on the development parcels themselves to take this large, represents about a 10-minute walk shed around the square, and have that same mosaic be on the parcels themselves, to replicate that kind of variety of income level, of age, of educational level, and reproduce that, and not to get that to inform what we do, I think.
Interesting.
Next slide.
That is a great slide.
Thank you.
Next.
And this translates then down to the ground and who the people are. And so how we take, on the one hand, this rigorous analysis of why it works. We need to actually, it happened organically and by accident, but we are able as planners to actually scientifically understand the why, so that we can then apply it in a more specific way to what the development has to do.
Well, and I think it's important to point out that it looks different in any community. So we've done a lot of mixed-use urban redevelopment, but what we did in Fort Point and what we did in Portland is different than what it would look like when we do it, if we were so fortunate as to be selected to do it in Somerville, because in order for it to be authentic, it really needs to be specific to that place. So there's no one-size-fits-all, there's no formula, there's no cookie cutter. We have an approach that is informed by the kind of things we've been talking about around crafting the first 30 feet, around minimizing carbon footprint, creating community, building great buildings that invite people to be in them. But again, those are merely an approach, and the specifics will really be particular to the unique place where we are working.
Yeah, if you look at kind of our portfolio wide, and in every process that we engage in, it really it begins well before even design conception, with kind of taking a step back and just absorbing both the cultural, the community aspects, the physical aspects of the neighborhood, and really looking at that through its own lens and letting that be the kind of the foundation.
Right, and that'll end up being a project that's hopefully embraced by the community, but is also a successful project, right? So it's also about creating a project where people want to be at the stores and want to patronize the restaurants, et cetera.
Because it's a unique place.
Yep.
I mean, it's about choice at the end of the day. And if this can be the richest, most well thought through urban development, that has all kinds of advantages too.
Yeah, the
Next
slide.
Sorry to interrupt you, Matt.
no, I was gonna. Oh,
Just a quick last example, and then I think we're going to move on to questions, which we recognize the importance of the balance between commercial space, jobs here, as well as residential space. And this is a project in Portland that was done actually in partnership with our local redevelopment agency. And it was a redevelopment of a historic building for a wind company. And working with the city, we were able to keep this company and all of those good jobs in the city of Portland. So again, it's just an example of things that we've done that I think speak to some of the things that are important here.
Next slide.
this is, I mean, granted, this is a completely different scale, but this is a project that we did. It's a brownfield redevelopment that we did. It was an extension of Portland. It was this kind of new emerging area, but it really kind of exemplifies, I mean, on either the granular level, on a very kind of infill level, and even on a macro level, we're able to weave in kind of the complexities of use.
Okay, thank you very much. I wanted to get to a couple of questions. We only have about 5 minutes, but with that, there's a lot of things that people are wanting to know. I guess my first question is, many might question an out-of-state development firm and their inability to familiarize themselves with the local community and their concerns and long-term commitment. What is your thought behind that? I mean, what's your stance?
Well, we definitely spend a lot of time in the community. I mean, we spend a lot of time here in the Boston metro area. We spend a lot of time here in Somerville. We're here about every other week. That said, I think that yeah, that's definitely it's a good question to be having. I think it gives us I think it actually can be used as an advantage to some degree, in that we have the opportunity to kind of come in with a fresh lens. I think
Can I quickly jump in?
Yeah, sure.
And just say that, you know, the company has made significant investments in this region over the last 4 years. And so, you know, we are committed. We're here. We're going to continue to be here. We've been talking about when the right time might be to open an office in this metropolitan area. So, and I think if you talk to people who've worked with the team, and there's multiple people on the ground every week, I think they would tell you that there isn't a difference. It doesn't feel like we're not connected and here and available.
Okay. One of the praises of the CAC in their review of your presentation was your firm's focus on transit-oriented philosophies and commitment to sustainability with such a strong lead portfolio. What would you say is your firm's approach to the environmental opportunities of Union Square? Is there, like, maybe quickly one thing or two things that you could take advantage of?
Yeah, I think one of the most exciting things about it is, in addition to doing things sustainably on a building-by-building basis, because there are various sites, you also have the opportunity to look at some district-type strategies. That could be energy, that could be water, and that is really unique to a situation where you are looking at multiple sites and planning for them at the same time.
One of your the projects that was appraised at the brewery blocks in Portland, it's an adaptive reuse project, very similar in type and scale to Union Square. So that's clearly one of your urban success stories. But do you have a project in particular that you feel might be something that you've learned from? And how have you learned from it? How has your development changed?
Well, I'd say we learned something from every single project that we do.
Even the brewery blocks, for sure.
Yeah, but I think, you know, for me personally, I think, you know, I can think of a project where, given the client and the user of the building and their constraints relative to time and or budget, we perhaps weren't able to accomplish what we'd like to accomplish in terms of design of the building and sustainability, the level of innovation in the building. And I would say what I learned from that is the need to really focus on how to do the things that we do within a budget and how to figure out how to do that well and cost effectively.
There was a comment made at the CAC review about your work on 315 on A and downtown Boston, which catered to a slightly higher pricing point than currently exists in Union Square. So with that in mind, how do you see your company approaching and accommodating the nonprofits, the artists, and the independent businesses that are currently here?
Well, I think that it's a critical component of the community that's already here. And so figuring this out and figuring out innovative ways to perhaps adaptively reuse some space, and perhaps those are able to be, those are lower rents potentially to allow people to stay in the neighborhood. I also think being very proactive just from the very beginning about businesses, but also residents, and making sure that affordability in the housing is also from the beginning, that there's a very thoughtful strategy to address that as part of the development process.
And so real quickly, we've got one more minute here. Why is it, I mean, you guys come to Somerville, you've stated that you want a place for the community, the new Somervillians, old Somervillians. What is it that gets you the most excited? We've got about a minute left.
I mean, can I take this one?
Go ahead.
One of the
You
things.
handle the excitement
You're,
question.
you're the exciting guy.
One of the things that I just, again, kind of going back to my earlier statement about kind of what we saw, I mean, one of the things I think is that it's so exciting about it is that kind of cultural aspect of kind of human connection, the idea that community really is truly celebrated here. When you walk into a place, Block 11, we were at PA's Lounge, and we walked in 5 minutes later, we're served cake, we're hanging out with this band, we're just meeting very interesting people. Places here facilitate that, and that's truly, truly exciting to us.
Okay, wonderful. I would like to thank our guests representing the Gerding Edlen team for taking the time to speak with Greater Somerville tonight about their team visions for Union Square. As the Somerville Redevelopment Authority approaches their final decision for master developer next month, I urge all of you to stay engaged with this selection process. With the magnitude of land slated for redevelopment over the next 15 years, Somerville residents mustn't turn a blind eye to this process. We must educate ourselves on the 4 remaining candidates and express those opinions to City Hall to assure that the right fit for Somerville community is selected by the SRA. Best of luck to Gerding Edlen team in the weeks ahead. Until next time, thank you for watching, and as always, stay safe and stay informed. Good night, everyone.